you're hearing this, it means I survived long enough to tell it. I used to fix things for a living, mostly electrics, rural call-outs, circuit boards, the occasional rewiring job for a shed or a garage. Never anything weird. Just fuse boxes and bored homeowners and cows that won't stop watching you. But one job, the farmhouse just outside of Arnhem, that one broke something in me, something I don't think I'll ever get back. And when I say I survived, I don't mean untouched, just not replaced. The job, it came through an agency I barely remembered signing up to. Basic details: isolated property, power outage, access to basement required, one night only, $400. $400 for a single call out? That alone set off red flags. But I was behind on my bills and curiosity is cheap. I accepted. The directions led me off the main road, onto a narrow path carved between low, grey stone walls. I passed no other houses, not one, just frost-bitten fields and skeletal trees bending in the wind. Only, I couldn't hear the wind, not even with the windows down. The farmhouse was 2 stories of blackened brick, no lights on, no car in the drive. The chimney puffed faint smoke, but the air smelled wrong, metallic, flat. I rang the bell, no sound. I pressed my ear to the door, nothing. Even the gravel beneath my boots didn't crunch. I stepped inside. The moment I crossed the threshold, it felt like I left the world. My ears rang, or stopped ringing, I'm not too sure. The silence wasn't just stillness, it was oppression, like every sound had been sucked out of the air. The hallway stretched long and narrow, wallpaper peeling like shed skin. I could see into the kitchen, still life setting, a mug on the counter, steam rising from it as if someone had just walked away. But no hum from the fridge, no ticking clock, not even the sound of my own breath. I spoke out loud just to test it, but nothing came. I climbed the stairs slowly, each stair groaned beneath me, but not a single sound reached my ears, and at the top, the hallway stretched to a shut door. Behind it, light spilled from beneath the crack. I knocked. Nothing. I opened it. The room inside was still. Chair, dresser, dust motes frozen in golden light. And in a chair, a man, middle-aged, pale, wearing overalls just like mine. Eyes open, mouth slightly parted. He didn't move, didn't blink, didn't even acknowledge me. But as I stepped closer, I realized he was me. Same jacket, same boots, same face. He stared through me like I wasn't there. I backed out, I slammed the door, still no sound. Then I felt something tap me on my shoulder. I turned. No one. But I was now holding a flashlight I didn't bring, and it was already on. I stood in the hallway, breathing hard, flashlight shaking in my hand, but there was no sound, not even my own heartbeat. The silence was starting to press against me from the inside. I tried calling the agency. No signal. I tried humming, just to feel the vibration in my throat, but even that was missing, like my whole body had forgotten how to produce noise. I walked to the kitchen, hoping for a phone, a note, anything. That's when I noticed the kettle, still hot, still steaming. I touched it, and I felt the burn, but even then, I heard nothing. It hissed, and I heard nothing. I opened the back door. It led to a field that looped. Same shape, same tree, same leaning fence. I stepped out, turned left, and walked around the house, only to find myself approaching the back door again. This house wasn't in the countryside. It wasn't anywhere. It was the only thing here, and I was inside it. The flashlight dimmed as I descended the basement stairs. They creaked beneath me, but again, no sound. Just a crawling pressure in my ears like I was underwater. The door at the bottom stuck. I forced it open and I immediately felt cold, but not temperature cold, dead cold. Like the air had never moved here, like the place had never lived. The room was long, narrow, stone walls, pipes that ended in nothing. The air tasted wrong, dry and sharp like dust soaked in metal. And then I saw them, in the walls. Mouths. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Human mouths fused into the stone. Some frozen open, some mid-scream. All real. The lips cracked, the teeth yellowed. Some mouths still twitched. I leaned in, stomach turning. They weren't carved. They weren't fake. These were people. I stepped back, flashlight trembling in my grip, and one of the mouths moved. It whispered, "Don't let it hear you." I bolted up the stairs, but the house had changed. The hallway was too long, the wallpaper now smeared with handprints. The kitchen door was gone, and in the reflection of the hallway mirror, I saw myself. But I wasn't holding the flashlight, he was holding a pair of wire cutters. Then I heard the sound. One sound, the first sound in the entire house, a wet breath, inches behind me. I turned. Nothing. But in the mirror, my double smiled and said, "It took your voice, now it wants your place." I screamed, or tried to. No sound came out. I woke up in my van, still parked in the drive, sun rising over the trees. I stumbled out, breath fogging in the air, and I could hear birds again. The crunch of the gravel, the beep of my key fob, the normal world. But when I got home, the TV wouldn't play sound. My phone rang, but I couldn't hear the other end. And in the mirror above the fireplace, I sometimes see myself moving, just a second too late. If you're hearing this, it means I survived long enough to tell it. But something stayed behind in that house, and something followed me out, because every time I close my eyes now, I dream of the walls and the mouths, and I swear one of them is mine. People think the countryside is peaceful. They imagine sheep in meadows, old pubs with mossy signs, stone cottages warmed by firelight. But there's another side to it, the kind you don't see on the postcards, the kind no one talks about, places forgotten by roads and reason, villages where the clocks don't tick and the windows never open. I found one of those places, and I should have kept driving. I was doing a short docu-series on vanishing British villages, ones no longer on the maps or modern records, places swallowed by land or bureaucracy. I'd done two already. One was just an empty manor with graffiti, the other a ghost town being brought up for Airbnbs. But then I found a reference in an old 1973 geological journal. A single sentence: Allswell remains geologically active, though uninhabited since the division in 1891. I googled it. Nothing. No news, no sensors, no coordinates. So, of course, I had to find it. It took me 3 days of calling regional councils, asking archivists, and stitching together old survey maps. The village wasn't listed, but the land surrounding it was agricultural, heavily wooded, mostly grazing pasture. One long trail cut through the trees, no name, no signs, just a path into silence. I took my gear and I went alone. After about an hour of hiking uphill through trees so dense they strangled the light, I found it. A village, or what was left of one. Stone buildings half swallowed by roots, chimneys cracked and crooked. But the strange part, there were people. Not many, 10, maybe 12, all dressed plainly, long coats, schools, boots caked with mud. No cars, no visible wires, but they weren't surprised to see me. One of them, an older man, stepped forward and smiled. "Have you come to film the watching?" Day 1, I stayed in a small room above a shuttered chapel. They brought me food, root vegetables, a jug of rainwater, bread still warm. No phones, no internet, but they didn't seem like the Luddities, just removed, preserved. They spoke softly and often in phrases that felt off. "The trees know when you're ready. Don't blink when the sun sits. We only remember what looks back." That evening, I followed them up the ridge overlooking a pine-covered valley. Every villager stood in complete silence, facing west. At 7:14 p.m, the sun set, and at 7:16 p.m, they all gasped. Not loud, not sharp, a synchronized inhalation. I asked what they saw. The old man whispered, "A second sun, just for a moment." But when I checked my camera footage later, there was a flicker, one frame where the forest horizon glowed white, as if a light had blinked on behind reality. The next morning, I woke to find the chapel room filled with flowers I didn't recognize. They smelled of honey and rust, and the villagers greeted me warmly, like I was one of them. They told me tonight would be a feast night, not for celebration, but for binding, whatever that meant. I spent the day filming, and I noticed something strange in the footage. Every time I panned across the village square, a figure would appear in the background, one I hadn't seen in person. A tall woman in white, always standing just at the edge of the frame, never moving. When I asked the villagers who she was, they all responded the same way. "We don't have mirrors here." That night, we gathered by the ridge again. Long wooden tables were set with bowls of stew, candles, and old tin cups. No one ate, no one drank. They simply stared toward the woods. At 7:14, the sun began to set. At 7:16, they gasped again. And this time, I turned. I looked into the trees, and I saw it. Something stepped between the pines. Not a person, not an animal. Something tall, bent, light bent around it, like heat distortion shaped like a human face that never changed expression. The air turned vicious, and the villagers whispered in unison, "The Watcher sees you now. The Watcher sees you now." Day 3. I tried to leave the next morning. My car was gone. Not broken. Gone. The path I had hiked in on. Overgrown. Thick with bush that hadn't been there before. I tried to call out, scream, demand answers, but no one stopped me. They just kept smiling. One woman pressed a hand to my shoulder and said, "You're not the first outsider to look back. You have to stay. The Watcher remembers you now." That night, they held a final gathering, but there was no food, no table, only me, standing at the edge of the ridge, arms bound to a tall wooden post. The sun dropped lower. 7:14. My heart pounded. 7:15. I closed my eyes. At 7:16, I opened them, and I finally saw it. Not with my eyes, but with everything I was. It stood among the trees, no face, just a void where thought collapsed and meaning peeled away like skin. My camera turned on by itself and began recording. I felt it, the warmth, the hunger, the recognition. It knew me now, and I understood what the others meant. We only remember what looks back. They say no one lives in Allswell, that it hasn't existed in over a century. But if you go to the ridge at sunset and stare long enough into the trees, you might see something shift. And if you feel your breath leave your chest, if your fingers twitch without you moving them, if you hear something whisper in a voice that sounds almost like your own, there's still one more space. Then it's too late. If you're hearing this, it means I survived long enough to tell it. But when I watch the footage back, I don't remember filming it. I see myself on screen, staring, mouth moving silently, eyes wide, and behind me, it leans in. In rural folklore, a black dog is a death omen. It's not always violent, not always fast, it just appears and waits. I never believed in that kind of thing. Even when I was little, stories of the dog at the gate or the hound on the hill just sounded like bedtime filler. But then I saw it, and now I believe in it completely, because it didn't just wait for me, it made me remember why it came. It was a house-sitting gig offered through a website I'd used before the rural stays and dog watching gigs. The cottage was in Devon, England, old, ivy-wrapped, middle of nowhere. The owners were a retired couple, off to Spain for the winter. No pets, just mind the logs and keep the lights on. I needed a break. I was tired of the city, and there were things I was trying to forget. The place was beautiful. Fireplace, stone floors, a clawfoot tub. Quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you feel like the world forgot you. The first time I saw the black dog, I thought it was just a local stray. It was sitting at the edge of the woods, still, watching. Big, heavier than most, muscles like coiled rope. Its eyes glinted red in the evening light, but not glowing, just reflective, like wet stone. I waved it off, it didn't move, and when I turned back, it was gone. A few nights later, I woke up to find dirt under my fingernails. I hadn't gone outside, at least I don't remember doing so, but my boots were damp. There was mud on the carpet, and on the kitchen counter someone had left a note in my handwriting. Don't dig anymore. I checked the bin for scraps. Nothing. I checked the back door. It was unlocked. That same night, the dog was back. Closer now, sitting at the garden gate, its eyes locked to mine. I tried to call out to it, but no sound came. It just tilted its head like it didn't recognize me anymore. The box, I found it behind the shed. The disturbed earth gave it away, a shallow patch, poorly recovered. I dug without thinking, and there it was, a tin box, rusted around the corners. Inside, a photo of a girl, maybe 8 or 9, a knife, a necklace with a cracked stone pendant, and a blood-stained note that said, "We made her sleep, don't let her wake up." My hands were still shaking. I didn't recognize the girl, but the handwriting, it was mine. That night, every mirror in the house reflected something different, not warped, just slightly off. In one, I was smiling while I stared blankly. In another, I was digging, over and over, digging and whispering, "She's still down there." The bathroom mirror showed me holding the knife, blood on my cheek, and behind me, the dog, standing, waiting. I left the cottage the next morning. I tried to drive, but the road looped. I passed the same fallen tree 3 times. My GPS spun uselessly, and every time I stopped, the dog was ahead of me again. It wasn't chasing, it was guiding. Eventually I walked, no destination. I just followed the dog's slow, steady path through the woods. It led me to a clearing I'd never seen before. One stone in the middle, a crude cross carved into it, and below it, freshly disturbed soil. My hands started moving before I could stop them, digging, fingers raw, and beneath the earth, another tin box. Inside, the same knife, the same photo, only this time, there were 3 photos. One was of the girl, one was of the dog, and the last one was me. When I looked up, the dog was gone, so was the stone. I was alone in the woods, no sense of how I'd gotten there. I walked back to the cottage, but the keys no longer fit the door. There were no photos of me inside, and the Wi-Fi didn't connect. Even my reflection in the window wasn't mine anymore. If you're hearing this, it means I survived long enough to tell it. But the truth is, I buried something, a memory, a crime, a girl, and the black dog. It doesn't kill, it remembers, and it waits until you do too.